Welcome to NFL Nexus. Today we're going to break down the anatomy of a really tough loss. The New England Patriots falling 29-13 to the Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl LX. We're going to go way beyond just that final score. We'll dig into the stats that tell the real story of what happened on the field, we'll listen to the raw reactions from the team's biggest leaders, and we'll try to figure out what this one game really means for a franchise that's still trying to escape a legendary shadow. But before we really jump in, hey, if you like this kind of deep dive analysis, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and give this explainer a like. It helps the channel out a ton. And hey, if you've got any football fans in your life, kids, grandkids, or even adults who are kids at heart, we've actually created some really fun NFL-themed coloring books. It's a great way to support what we do here. You can find the link for those right down in the description or just scan the QR code on the screen. Seriously, your support makes all this possible, so thank you. All right, let's get into it. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the raw emotion of the loss itself. Then we'll dive into the nitty-gritty numbers that really tell you what happened. After that, we'll hear from quarterback Drake Maye and the veteran Stefon Diggs to get the view from inside the locker room. And then we'll zoom out, look at the big picture, and talk about that long shadow of the past and what this all means for the Pats going forward.
Section 1. Super Bowl Heartbreak. You know, for Patriots fans, this wasn't just losing another game. This was a gut punch. This was the crushing end to what was a phenomenal 14-3 season. This was the year they got back on top of the AFC, the year they got back to the biggest stage. Week after week, you could feel the belief building, that this team was for real, that this was the year. And that hope, that's what made the final falls so painful.
And there it is, the final score, 29-13. I mean, on paper, it looks pretty one-sided, but if you watch the game, it felt like just a slow, methodical dismantling. That scoreboard, it just represents the quiet end to a season that had so much noise and so much promise. Seattle's defense didn't just win this game. They completely imposed their will from the very first snap. And that potent Patriots offense looked lost, searching for answers that just weren't there.
So let's move on to Section 2, the game by the numbers. To really get how Seattle just took this game over, you have to look past that final score and dig into the box score. The stats from this one, they tell a pretty brutal story. They paint a really clear picture of an offense that just ran smack into a defensive buzzsaw. It really all starts right here. 6 sacks. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's not just lost yardage. That's 6 different times a promising drive was brought to a violent, screeching halt. The Seattle defensive line was just an absolute force of nature. For a young QB like Drake Maye, that changes everything. His internal clock gets sped up, he's rushing throws, he can never get comfortable, never set his feet. Each one of those sacks was like a body blow that just killed any momentum they tried to build. And then you see this number, 78. That was the Patriots' total offensive yardage through 3 full quarters of the Super Bowl. 45 minutes of football. To put that into perspective, a single good touchdown drive can be more than 78 yards. I mean, this is just statistical proof of complete and utter domination. Seattle's defense wasn't bend but don't break. No. They were break your will, and they absolutely suffocated New England's offense.
And this right here, this table, just visualizes how futile it all was. Just imagine being on the Patriots sideline. You get the ball, you're hopeful. Okay, let's go. 3 plays later, punt. All right, shake it off, get it back, make an adjustment, punt. Again, and again, and again. 8 of their first 9 drives ended with the punter coming on the field. It wasn't just a struggle. It was a total systemic failure to move the ball. You absolutely cannot win a championship like that.
Okay, Section 3, Drake Maye's accountability. So with those absolutely brutal offensive numbers in mind, the 6 sacks, the 78 yards, that endless parade of punts, let's turn to the guy at the center of it all, the quarterback, Drake Maye. Because in the face of all that failure, what he said after the game might be more telling than any stat. So listen to his first instinct here. Before anyone even asks him about a specific play, he talks about the team, about the journey. You can hear the raw emotion, but notice the words. There are 0 excuses. No talk about bad bounces or missed calls, just a simple, painful admission. We didn't play our best, and that's what happens. That's the foundation of leadership right there.
And here he gives credit where it's due. He acknowledges the pressure from Seattle, the 6 sacks we talked about, but watch how fast he pivots. He doesn't dwell on what the other team did. The focus turns inward almost instantly. We just got to be better. I got to make better throws. He takes that external pressure and immediately frames it as an internal responsibility for him to overcome.
He apparently kept repeating this phrase over and over in his press conference. I got to make better throws. It's so simple, so direct, but in that moment, after losing the Super Bowl, man, that is incredibly powerful. It became his mantra. When a lot of other players might point fingers, he put the spotlight squarely, and I mean squarely, on himself. It's a huge sign of his character and his leadership style.
So we have to ask, what does that really mean, making better throws? Because it's not just about accuracy, not just about hitting a guy in the numbers. Coming from a quarterback after the biggest game of his life, that's a loaded statement. It carries all the weight and responsibility of that position. We got to peel back the layers here.
When Maye says making better throws, he's talking about all of this. He means standing in that collapsing pocket and still delivering an on-time, on-target ball. He means seeing a blitz coming before the snap and knowing instantly where to go with the football. It's about that huge 3rd and 7 and not just completing a pass for 5 yards, but finding a way to move the chains. It's all about composure, decision-making, and executing when the lights are the absolute brightest. For him, this was all about the plays he felt he left out there on the field. Plays that could have changed everything.
So let's move on. Section 4, Stefon Diggs' stark reality. Now we're going to shift our focus from the young quarterback who's putting all the blame on himself to the 32-year-old veteran receiver, Stefon Diggs. And he gave us a very different, but maybe just as telling, perspective on the loss. His was, let's just say, a bit more blunt.
Now, to really get where Stefon Diggs was coming from, you have to look at this insane contrast. All season long, he was the guy, the engine of the offense. Over 1,000 yards, 85 catches. He was the reason they were even in the Super Bowl. And then, on the biggest stage, he was a complete ghost. 3 catches for 37 yards, just 3 targets. Your number one weapon just vanished.
And this one stat right here, it tells you everything you need to know about Seattle's defensive game plan. They walked into that game with one mission: do not let Stefon Diggs beat us. And they just executed it perfectly, with double teams, physical coverage, you name it. To hold a receiver like that to his lowest target total of the entire season in the Super Bowl, that is just a masterclass in defensive coaching. They basically surgically removed the Patriots' best weapon.
And this was Diggs' reaction to all of it. There's no deep dive, no analysis of what he could have done better. It's just blunt, direct, and brutally honest. It's the simple truth from a veteran who knows when his team just got beat. We got beat by a good-ass team, end of story. He's not making excuses, he's just stating a fact.
And what you get is this really fascinating contrast in leadership inside the same locker room. On one hand, you have Drake Maye, the young QB, looking inward, taking all that weight onto his own shoulders. And on the other, you have Stefon Diggs, the seasoned vet, just giving a straightforward, pragmatic take. Hey, they were the better team tonight. Neither one is right or wrong, they're just 2 different ways of processing a painful loss. You probably need both in a healthy locker room.
So looking ahead, Diggs' quiet postseason plus his big contract makes for a really tricky offseason decision. He says he wants to be back, but the money gets complicated. His salary cap hit, which is just how much his contract counts against the team's spending limit, is about to skyrocket. The Patriots could actually save over $20 million in cap space if they were to cut him after next season. So the front office has a tough question to answer. Is a 32-year-old receiver who kind of disappeared in the Super Bowl worth that massive price tag? Yeah, his future in New England is definitely not a sure thing. Okay, Section 5, Living in Brady's Shadow. Now we have to zoom way, way out. Because for the New England Patriots, a loss like this isn't just a single event. Every single thing they do, every win and every loss, is another chapter in a much bigger story. And it's a story you just can't tell without talking about the colossal shadow cast by the guy who came before.
This timeline really puts it all in perspective, doesn't it? For nearly 20 years, the Patriots weren't just a good football team, they were the dynasty. 6 championships, 9 Super Bowl appearances. I mean, they were the gold standard for the entire league. That kind of insane success creates a benchmark that is almost impossible to live up to. That history doesn't just sit in a trophy case. You can feel its weight in everything they do today.
And this right here is the harsh reality of being a Patriot fan these days. For almost any other franchise, making it to the Super Bowl after a few years of rebuilding would be a massive, unqualified success. They'd be throwing parades. But in New England, that dynasty changed the definition of success. The only thing that counts as a successful season is hoisting that Lombardi trophy. So while getting there was a huge step, the title drought continues, and the shadow of Tom Brady still looms large.
So, Section 6, an uncertain future. Where did they go from here? You know, a painful loss like this on the biggest stage, it actually provides a lot of clarity. It's like an X-ray that shows you exactly where the fractures are. It leaves New England at a major crossroads with some huge critical questions that they absolutely have to answer this offseason if they want to take that final step. The entire offseason is probably going to revolve around these big questions. We've seen that Drake Maye has the leadership stuff down, but can he elevate his game to that elite championship level? We just talked about the whole stuff on Diggs' contract situation. Is he a luxury they can't afford anymore? And maybe the most important question of all, after getting physically dominated, how do you fix the offense, especially the offensive line, to handle elite pressure? The answers they find will define the next chapter of Patriots football. And all of this brings us to our final question. Drake Maye has proven he has those intangibles, the maturity, the leadership, the drive. But in today's NFL, is having an elite QB with great leadership enough to get back to the top and finally escape that Brady shadow? Or did this loss show that they need a lot more fundamental pieces around him to finally get that Lombardi trophy back? What do you think is the most critical missing piece for New England? Let us know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching NFL Nexus.